The phone rings. Not loudly. Not urgently. Just enough to be noticed. Enough to interrupt the moment. Enough to pull attention away from whatever was finally feeling calm. They see the name on the screen. A familiar name. Sometimes even a loved one. And still, their body reacts before their mind does. The chest tightens. The shoulders rise. The breath shortens. Not because they don't care. Not because they are hiding. Not because they are rude. But because a ringing phone asks for something they don't feel ready to give. So they let it ring. They watch it vibrate. They wait for the silence to return. And when it does, something inside them relaxes. Only slightly. Only enough to function again. Moments later, they open their messages. They type back. Quickly. Thoughtfully. Sometimes with warmth. Sometimes with relief. To the outside world, this looks strange. Why avoid a call but answer a text immediately? Why dodge a voice but welcome words? People make assumptions. They say it's a generational habit. A technology problem. A lack of social skills. They joke that phone calls are too much. They roll their eyes. But what they rarely see is that this behavior is not about preference. It's about regulation. Because a phone call is not just communication. It is immediacy. It is exposure. It is being seen and heard in real time. With no pause. No buffer. No chance to collect yourself. A phone call demands presence. Your tone. Your reactions. Your emotions. Right now. And for some people, that demand feels overwhelming. Not because they are fragile, but because they learned early that being present came with risk. Many people who avoid phone calls grew up in environments where speaking was unsafe, where words were interrupted, where tone was scrutinized, where silence was punished. They learned to listen carefully, to choose words cautiously, to think before speaking. They learned that saying the wrong thing could change the entire emotional temperature of a room. So they adapted. They became thoughtful, measured, careful. And texting became the perfect extension of that survival skill. Texting allows time. It allows space. It allows control. With a text, you can breathe. You can read and reread. You can respond when your nervous system is ready. You can choose clarity over reaction. A phone call does not offer that luxury. When the phone rings, the body remembers. It remembers being put on the spot. It remembers conversations that escalated without warning. It remembers being expected to perform emotional labor without preparation. So the body reacts. Before logic. Before intention. Before love. The heart speeds up. The stomach tightens. The mind races. This is not avoidance. This is self-protection. People who avoid phone calls are often deeply relational. They care intensely. They notice emotional shifts. They sense expectations instantly. And that sensitivity, while beautiful, comes at a cost. A phone call delivers too much information all at once. The tone. The pauses. The sighs. The unspoken needs. And suddenly, they are managing not just the conversation, but the emotional weight behind it. For someone who learned to survive by staying attuned to others, this can feel exhausting. So they choose the medium that lets them stay present without drowning. They choose text. Texting is not cold. It is contained. It has edges. It has boundaries. It allows connection without collapse. There is also the fear of being trapped. A text has a beginning and an end. A phone call is open-ended. You don't know how long it will last. You don't know where it will go. You don't know what will be asked of you. Texting allows you to respond without surrendering your entire emotional bandwidth. And then there is the voice itself. A voice carries emotion in ways words do not. Urgency, expectation, judgment. For some, voices are associated with conflict, with lectures, with disappointment, especially if they grew up in homes where conversations were not safe, where speaking meant being corrected, or minimized, or talked over. In those homes, silence was survival. Distance was protection. So as adults, they choose communication that feels safer to their nervous system. This is not immaturity. It is adaptation. There is often guilt wrapped around this habit. They worry they are being rude. They replay missed calls in their head. They imagine how it looked. They tell themselves they should have answered. But what they are really doing is regulating. They are choosing the form of communication that allows them to show up with intention instead of resentment. Avoiding phone calls is rarely about avoiding people. It is about avoiding overwhelm. It is about staying grounded. Many of these people are deeply thoughtful. They listen carefully. They respond intentionally. They just don't do well with emotional ambushes. A ringing phone feels like a demand. A text feels like an invitation. That difference matters more than most people realize. In relationships, this habit can create misunderstandings. Friends feel ignored. Partners feel unimportant. Family members feel shut out. But often, the person avoiding calls is trying to preserve the relationship. They know that if they answer when overwhelmed, they may sound distant, flat, irritable. So they wait. They choose timing. They choose capacity. They choose honesty with themselves. This pattern becomes more pronounced during burnout. When life already demands constant availability. When work, expectations, and responsibilities never stop. A phone call feels like the final straw. Texting gives control back. It allows engagement without depletion. And over time, this behavior becomes part of identity. Someone who values depth over immediacy. Someone who chooses clarity over chaos. Someone who understands their limits. If you recognize yourself here, there is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. You are not antisocial. You learned how to stay connected without losing yourself. And if you love someone like this, the most important thing to understand is this. Their silence is not absence. Their delay is not rejection. It is regulation. It is care with boundaries. Sometimes the most loving thing a person can do is choose the way of communicating that allows them to be fully present. Even if it looks different than expected. Connection is not about immediacy. It is about safety. And safety looks different for different nervous systems. If this reflection feels familiar, if it put words to something you've never been able to explain, you are not alone. There are many people navigating connection this way. Quietly. Thoughtfully, and learning that their way of relating is valid too. Take care of yourself, and communicate in the way that keeps you whole. There is also a subtle loneliness that lives inside this pattern, one that is rarely acknowledged. Because even while choosing safety, there is often a quiet wish that things could be easier. That the phone could ring without the body bracing. That a voice could be heard without scanning for threat. That connection could arrive without cost. Many people who avoid phone calls carry both relief and sadness at the same time. Relief that they protected themselves. Sadness that protection was necessary in the first place. They may remember moments when they did answer. Times when they pushed past the tension. Sometimes it went fine. Sometimes it didn't. And the nervous system, loyal to survival, remembers the moments that hurt more vividly than the ones that didn't. It remembers the raised voice. The sudden disappointment. The feeling of being cornered into a conversation they weren't ready for. And so it chooses caution again. This is how the nervous system works. It is not interested in proving resilience. It is interested in preventing harm. It tracks patterns, not intentions. So even when the person on the other end of the line is kind, loving, familiar, the body does not respond to who they are now. It responds to what similar moments once meant. For many, this avoidance is not consistent across all relationships. They may answer one person without hesitation and ignore another with dread. This is not hypocrisy. It is discernment shaped by experience. Some voices feel safe. Some feel loaded. Some feel neutral. Some carry history. And the body knows the difference, even when the mind tries to reason it away. There is also the layer of emotional responsibility that phone calls often imply. A call can feel like an unspoken agreement. I am available. I am ready. I can hold what you bring. For someone who has spent much of their life holding other people together, that implication is heavy. They may already be carrying the weight of work, family, finances, grief, or exhaustion. The ringing phone becomes one more thing asking to be held. And sometimes, they simply cannot. Texting, by contrast, does not assume capacity. It asks instead of demands. It allows the recipient to check in with themselves before responding. Do I have space right now? Do I have the energy to engage honestly? Do I have enough steadiness to be kind? This internal check is not avoidance. It is care. There is a misconception that people who avoid calls are emotionally distant. In reality, many of them feel too much. They feel tone shifts immediately. They sense disappointment before it is named. They pick up on hesitation, expectation, and longing in a single breath. What others experience as simple conversation, they experience as layered emotional data. And processing that in real time can be overwhelming. Text slows the process down. It filters the noise. It reduces the amount of emotional input arriving at once. For sensitive nervous systems, this difference is everything. Another overlooked aspect is how phone calls collapse boundaries between roles. A call from a family member can instantly pull someone back into childhood dynamics. A call from work can erase the separation between personal time and professional obligation. A call from a partner can activate attachment fears that text would not. The voice carries identity, history, expectation, and suddenly, the person answering is not just themselves in the present moment. They are who they have always been in that relationship. For those who grew up needing to perform certain roles, peacekeeper, caretaker, translator, emotional buffer, phone calls can feel like a return to those roles without consent. Texting offers distance from that pull. It allows them to remain an adult choosing connection, rather than a child reacting to it. There is also the reality that many people who avoid phone calls are deeply introspective. They process internally before speaking. They think in layers. They notice nuance. They want their words to reflect what they actually feel, not just what comes out under pressure. Phone calls favor speed over depth. They reward quick responses. They leave little room for silence without discomfort. For someone who needs time to articulate themselves honestly, this environment feels hostile. So they wait. They let thoughts settle. They let emotions organize. They respond when they can stand behind what they say. This is not disengagement. It is integrity. Often, these individuals are very aware of how their behavior is perceived. They know it can frustrate others. They know it can look dismissive. And that awareness adds another layer of stress. They may carry shame about it. They may apologize excessively. They may explain themselves repeatedly. They may even override their own needs occasionally just to avoid being misunderstood. But each time they do, the cost is felt internally. A slight resentment. A sense of depletion. A feeling of having abandoned themselves again. Over time, they learn that answering every call is not sustainable. That being constantly available erodes their ability to show up meaningfully at all. This is where boundaries quietly emerge. Not as ultimatums. Not as declarations. But as choices. Missed calls. Delayed responses. Carefully worded texts. These are not acts of withdrawal. They are acts of self-preservation. There is also the factor of emotional honesty. On the phone, many people default to performing wellness. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm okay. Even when they're not. The immediacy of voice can make it harder to admit vulnerability without feeling exposed. Text allows honesty without spectacle. It allows someone to say, I don't have the capacity to talk right now, without having to sound strong while saying it. For people who have been taught that their needs are inconvenient, this matters deeply. They may struggle to say no out loud. They may fear disappointing others. Texting gives them a way to honor their limits without facing immediate emotional consequences. It is important to understand that avoidance of phone calls often increases during periods of transition. Burnout, grief, depression, anxiety, life changes that destabilize routine. During these times, the nervous system is already taxed. Any additional demand can feel intolerable. The phone becomes a symbol of everything they cannot manage right now. This does not mean they care less. It often means they care so much that they do not want to show up poorly. They would rather wait than risk being curt, distracted, or emotionally absent. There is also the issue of consent. Texting is consensual communication. It respects timing. It allows refusal without confrontation. Phone calls bypass consent. They assume access. For individuals who have experienced emotional intrusion, this lack of choice can be triggering. Avoiding calls becomes a way to reclaim agency, to decide when and how they engage, to remind themselves that their time, energy, and emotional availability are theirs to allocate. Many people only recognize this pattern later in life. They may spend years forcing themselves to answer calls out of obligation, years feeling drained without understanding why, years believing something is wrong with them. And then, slowly, they begin to listen to their own discomfort. They begin to notice that certain forms of connection leave them feeling worse, not better. This realization can be both freeing and painful. Freeing because it offers permission to choose differently. Painful because it reveals how long they have ignored themselves. For those who love someone like this, understanding requires patience. It requires letting go of assumptions about intent. It requires recognizing that responsiveness is not the same as care. That immediacy is not the same as intimacy. A person who avoids phone calls may still think about you often. They may craft thoughtful messages. They may remember details. They may show up consistently in other ways. Their care is not absent. It is expressed differently. And for the person avoiding calls, there is often an ongoing internal negotiation. They may challenge themselves gently. They may choose calls when they feel resourced. They may practice building tolerance slowly. This is growth, not obligation. The goal is not to eliminate discomfort entirely. The goal is to create safety where none existed before, to allow connection to unfold without coercion, to let the nervous system learn that presence does not always equal danger. This takes time. It takes compassion. It takes environments where boundaries are respected, not punished. Avoiding phone calls is not a character flaw. It is a signal, a message from the body about what it needs to stay regulated. Ignoring that message does not create connection. Honoring it might. In a world that glorifies constant access, choosing a quieter way of relating is radical. It challenges the idea that love must be immediate, that availability equals devotion, that responsiveness proves worth. But real connection is not measured by how quickly you answer. It is measured by how safely you can show up. For some, that safety comes through words typed carefully, through pauses, through space, through timing. And that is not lesser. It is intentional. If you see yourself in this pattern, you are not failing at connection. You are redefining it. You are choosing a form of closeness that honors your nervous system instead of overriding it. And if you are learning to love someone who communicates this way, the invitation is simple but not easy. Slow down. Listen beneath the behavior. Trust that care does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes, the quietest forms of connection are the most sustainable. Sometimes, choosing not to answer is how someone stays present in the long run. And sometimes, protecting your peace is not a withdrawal from love, but the very thing that makes love possible at all.